In 1964, Colonel Harlan Sanders sold Kentucky Fried Chicken for $2 million. That brand generates $34 billion a year today. But Sanders did not spend his retirement proud of what it became. He spent the last 16 years of his life in open warfare against it. He called the gravy wallpaper paste. He called the chicken a fried dough ball. And when neither accusation changed a single thing, he sued the company for $122 million. The man whose face was on every bucket died in 1980. Despising what his name was attached to, this is what a $2 million deal actually bought. 30 years before that sale, Sanders was a broke 65-year-old with a pressure cooker, a leased gas station, and a chicken recipe he had spent 2 decades perfecting. He had already failed at farming, law, insurance, a ferry boat company, and an acetylene lamp business. He stood in a kitchen in Corbin, Kentucky, trying one more time with nothing but the food itself. He started cooking for customers out of the back of a Shell station in 1930. Chicken, vegetables, biscuits. The food was good enough that he converted a storage room into a dining area, then expanded to 142 seats. Kentucky Governor Ruby LaFoon commissioned him as a Kentucky colonel in 1935. It was a ceremonial title Sanders would take seriously for the rest of his life, growing the white goatee, wearing the black string tie, and building the persona that would become one of the most recognizable faces in American commercial history. The detail that separated Sanders from every other roadside cook in rural Kentucky was not the recipe alone. It was the method. Standard deep frying took 30 minutes. Sanders had figured out how to use a pressure cooker to fry chicken in 8 to 9 minutes without losing moisture or flavor. Tender inside, crisp outside, sealed in the natural juices. Nobody in commercial food service was doing it. He had, without knowing it, built a technical moat. But Sanders was 61 years old and operating out of a single gas station in a small Kentucky town. Nobody in the restaurant industry knew his name. Nobody was coming to him, therefore he went to them. He drove to South Salt Lake, Utah, walked into Pete Harmon's restaurant, one of the largest in the state, and cooked chicken in Harmon's kitchen until Harmon believed what Sanders already knew. The handshake deal they signed cost Harmon 5 cents per chicken sold. In the first year, his restaurant sales more than tripled. Within 5 years, revenue had multiplied 20 times over. Harmon's operation was doing so well he coined the phrase Kentucky Fried Chicken himself, and Sanders trademarked it. That was the proof of concept. Sanders took it on the road. For the next decade, he drove across the country in his car, cooking chicken for restaurant owners, signing franchise deals on handshakes, collecting his nickel per bird. By the early 1960s, there were more than 600 locations across the United States and Canada serving Sanders' recipe. He had done all of it without a dime of outside capital, at an age when most people had already retired, and entirely by trusting people, which would turn out to be the most important and the most costly thing about him. 600 restaurants, built on handshakes, by a man in his 70s driving a car. That is what John Y. Brown Jr. was about to buy for $2 million. Managing 600 franchise relationships from his car was no longer practical. His wife Claudia ran much of the Canadian operation, and then John Y. Brown Jr. called. Brown was 29 years old, the son of a Kentucky politician, a fast talker who had briefly sold encyclopedias door to door. He approached Sanders with an offer to buy the entire American operation, $2 million. Sanders could retain the Canadian franchises, sit on the board, and continue appearing as the brand's ambassador at a salary of $40,000 a year. Sanders explained directly what he was trusting Brown with. He said he had built something that worked because of quality, because of the recipe, because of the way the chicken was cooked. He made Brown understand that the food was the brand. If the food changed, the brand would die. Brown told him he understood. Sanders believed him. That was not naivety. Sanders had spent 40 years reading people across a handshake. He had built 600 locations on nothing but his ability to judge whether someone would keep their word. Every one of those judgments had been earned over months of shared kitchens and shared meals. Brown had earned nothing. He had said the right words to a 73-year-old man who needed to believe them, and Sanders let him in. The deal closed in early 1964. What Sanders did not take was the stock. Brown had offered him equity. Sanders wanted cash. He did not trust paper. Brown made roughly $35 million when he sold to Heublein 7 years later. Sanders kept his $40,000 annual salary and watched it happen. And what came next would make that number look small. Brown and Massey were not incompetent operators. Within 6 years of buying KFC, they had expanded from 600 locations to more than 3,400. They took the company public. But growth in the fast food industry requires standardization, and standardization, in KFC's case, required cutting the things that made the food expensive to make. The gravy went first. Sanders' original gravy was made from pan drippings, flour, and his seasoning blend. It was labor-intensive, skill-dependent, and inconsistent across locations because it depended entirely on the person cooking it. A KFC spokesperson put the company's reasoning on the record. The Colonel's gravy was fantastic, he said, but you had to be a Rhodes Scholar to cook it. It involved too much time, too much room for human error, and it cost too much to produce at scale. That was the official justification for replacing it. The replacement was a powder mix, water, flour, starch, chicken cracklings from the fryer. Shelf-stable, cheap, fast, and in Sanders' own assessment, pure wallpaper paste. He was still appearing in the commercials, his face was still on the bucket, and he was driving around to KFC locations, walking into kitchens unannounced, and telling franchisees exactly what he thought of what they were serving under his name. In 1971, a Connecticut spirits company called Heublein bought KFC for $285 million. They understood liquor. They did not understand chicken. Under their ownership, cost-cutting accelerated. In 1972, they introduced Extra Crispy, a double-breaded, open-fried product developed to compete with Church's chicken. Sanders called it a damn fried dough ball stuck on some chicken. The quote is preserved verbatim in a Kentucky Supreme Court opinion from 1978. By the mid-1970s, Sanders was making unannounced visits to KFC restaurants and pushing food onto the floor when it failed his standards. He described Heublein's executives as a bunch of damn SOBs who did not know anything but peddling booze. In September 1976, food critic Mimi Sheraton of the New York Times took Sanders to a KFC in Manhattan. He walked into the kitchen, he inspected the fryers, he checked the oil, the chicken, the staff. Then he told them their chicken was the worst fried chicken he had ever seen. He was 86 years old. His face was on every bucket in that restaurant, and he meant every word of it. That visit was not the first time Sanders had gone on record. Several years earlier, he had gone to court. In January 1974, he filed suit against Heublein for $122 million. The claims included misuse of his image on products he had never endorsed and interference with his new restaurant venture, the Claudia Sanders Dinner House, which served his original recipe. The case settled in September 1975 for $1 million. Sanders agreed, nominally, to stop making public statements against the company. He did not honor that agreement in any meaningful way. A KFC franchisee also sued Sanders in 1975 for defamation after his Courier-Journal comments went national. That case was dismissed. The Kentucky Supreme Court affirmed the dismissal in 1978, ruling that criticizing a chain of 5,000 restaurants did not defame any individual franchisee. Both quotes are preserved verbatim in the court's opinion. Sanders died on December 16, 1980 at Jewish Hospital in Louisville. He was 90 years old. The cause was pneumonia. He had been diagnosed with acute leukemia 6 months earlier. His face was on every bucket in every KFC in the country on the day he died. The brand kept moving. It always does. By that point, the brand had already passed through two more owners, R.J. Reynolds, then PepsiCo, and then a spin-off that became Yum Brands. That is the parent company today. Yum Brands owns a chain that generates $34.5 billion in annual global system sales, operates more than 32,000 locations across 150 countries, and has been steadily closing restaurants in the United States for 2 decades. At its domestic peak in the early 2000s, KFC operated roughly 5,500 American locations. Today, that number sits around 3,600. In 2024, KFC opened 34 American restaurants and closed 161. That is not a typo. Take Chick-fil-A. In 2013, Chick-fil-A surpassed KFC as the top-grossing chicken chain in the United States. It did this with fewer than 1,800 locations, against KFC's 4,500. By 2024, Chick-fil-A was generating $22.5 billion in domestic sales, against KFC's approximately $4.5 billion. That is a 5-to-1 gap, operating in the same country, selling the same protein to the same customers KFC once owned. It now ranks 5th among chicken chains in the country it invented the category in. Sanders told Brown exactly what would happen if the food changed. He told Brown the food was the brand, that quality was the only thing protecting the name, and he said it plainly to Brown's face before a single document was signed. Brown told him he understood. Brown then spent the next 7 years systematically cutting the cost of every product Sanders had warned him to protect, collected $35 million when he sold the company to Heublein, and never looked back. Sanders spent the next 16 years saying so publicly. Nobody with the authority to reverse course listened. By the time the man making the accusation was dead, his face was still smiling on a bucket of food he would not have eaten. The bucket is still red, the colonel is still smiling, and the gravy is still made from powder. If this story is useful to you, subscribe. There is another brand like this coming next week. Same mechanism, different name.